The grand hall of the Eloria Palace shimmered with pale light reflecting off crystalline walls. Every surface seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, and the air carried the faint hum of the city beyond. Princess Leora stood near the center, her hands folded with delicate precision, yet her heart raced. Today was unlike any other in her 17 cycles of life. She was to meet a human warrior, a representative of a distant star system, whose reputation for courage and resolve had spread across several galaxies. Despite her calm exterior, every instinct within her screamed. Humans were known for their unpredictability, for their fearlessness in the face of threats that would unnerve even the bravest Elorian. Leora had been trained to maintain composure under scrutiny, but this was different. The warrior was said to possess qualities that no alien had ever encountered: strength, cleverness, and a resolute spirit that refused to yield. The palace doors opened with a subtle hiss, and a figure entered, framed by the radiant light from outside. Leora's eyes widened, though she forced them to remain steady. The human stepped forward with measured steps, his armor gleaming but not ostentatious. There was an ease in his posture, a quiet confidence that spoke of countless battles survived and challenges faced. "Princess Leora," the human said, bowing respectfully. His voice carried authority without arrogance. "I am Caden, from the Terra Alliance." Leora nodded gracefully. "Welcome, Caden. We are honored by your presence." Her voice was steady, yet internally she fought to quell the fluttering tension in her chest. Her advisors had warned her. Humans could unsettle even the most disciplined of Elorians. Caden's eyes, sharp and intelligent, studied her for a moment. Unlike many visitors, he did not immediately seek to examine the palace or its treasures. His gaze remained on her, not intrusive but attentive, as if he sought to understand more than the surface. Leora felt a subtle heat rise to her cheeks and reminded herself to breathe. "Your people speak highly of your wisdom, Princess," Caden said, his tone measured. "I have come not as a conqueror, but as an ally." Leora inclined her head. "And your reputation precedes you, Caden. I have heard of your victories against forces that many deemed insurmountable." She paused, selecting her words carefully. "It is reassuring to know such strength may be at our side." Caden's expression softened with a faint smile. Strength alone does not define victory. Strategy, trust, and resolve are equally vital. Even as she listened, Leora felt a subtle tension. The human's presence was commanding, yet not overwhelming. His aura carried an energy that seemed to challenge her composure, forcing her to confront feelings she had long kept in check. She had been trained to inspire confidence, to be untouchable. Yet here was someone whose very presence stirred unease and admiration simultaneously. The palace advisors, observing from a distance, exchanged discreet glances. It was rare to see the princess so visibly unsettled, even for a moment. But Caden's reputation was not mere rumor. Every gesture, every measured step, carried the weight of someone who had faced innumerable trials and emerged unshaken. "May I see your training grounds?" Caden asked after a moment of silence, his voice curious but respectful. "I have heard of Elorian combat techniques, and I am eager to observe them firsthand." Leora hesitated briefly. This was unusual. Humans typically underestimated alien combat methods. Yet she could see genuine interest in his gaze, free from condescension. Slowly she led the way, her steps measured but betraying a subtle nervousness. The training grounds were vast, a seamless blend of natural terrain and engineered precision. Floating platforms hovered near the edges, designed to challenge agility and spatial awareness. Leora demonstrated a series of movements, her body flowing with practiced grace, each motion calculated to perfection. She noticed Caden watching intently, his eyes tracking every detail without distraction. When she finished, Caden stepped forward. "Your skill is remarkable," he said, But may I? Before she could respond, he moved, demonstrating a human technique that was swift, fluid, yet grounded in raw power. His movements were unlike any Leora had encountered, direct, effective, and unexpectedly elegant. She felt a flicker of admiration, mixed with something deeper, a spark that made her pulse quicken. "You are precise," she managed, keeping her voice level despite the rapid beat of her heart. "Few can execute with such balance between strength and agility." Caden nodded, his gaze meeting hers steadily. "And few possess your grace. I have studied many forms of combat, yet yours is unique. There is harmony in it that few can emulate." Liara's chest tightened. The words were sincere, devoid of flattery or exaggeration. For the first time, she realized that this human did not seek to diminish or challenge her identity. Instead, he acknowledged it fully. She forced herself to inhale deeply, regaining a fraction of composure. Their training session continued, each testing the other in controlled movements, strategy, and precision. Leora found herself subtly adapting to Caden's techniques, finding parallels between human and Elorian methods. There was an unspoken respect in their exchange, a silent understanding that bridged worlds. When the session concluded, they sat near a tranquil pool, the water reflecting the sky and crystalline architecture. Leora found herself unable to avert her gaze completely from Caden, whose calm demeanor contrasted with the intensity of their shared exercises. "You are unlike anyone I have ever met," she said quietly. "Your presence, it challenges everything I thought I knew about strength and leadership." Caden looked at her with measured thoughtfulness. "Perhaps it is because humans and Elorians approach challenges differently. Strength is not only measured by power, but by the courage to face the unknown." Leora's heart raced at his words. There was wisdom in them, yet also a subtle affirmation of her own worth. She had always felt the weight of expectation pressing down, the invisible chains of duty and legacy. And yet, here was someone who saw her not merely as a princess, but as an individual whose skill, intelligence, and spirit were worthy of recognition. As the day waned, Caden rose. "Princess, I hope you will allow me to continue learning from you, not just in combat, but in understanding your world. There is much I wish to see and comprehend." Leora nodded, a soft smile breaking her composed exterior. "And I would welcome your insight. There is wisdom in your perspective, one that my people rarely encounter." For the first time in her life, Leora felt a sense of ease in the presence of another being. She was still aware of her responsibilities and the expectations that surrounded her. Yet the human warrior had a way of making her feel seen and respected, rather than constrained. Over the following cycles, Caden remained at the palace as an envoy and a student of Elorian culture. He engaged in diplomatic discussions, trained alongside the princess, and observed the workings of the palace with a keen mind. Each encounter left Leora more intrigued, more aware of the subtle shifts in her own perception. She began to notice small details, how he interacted with the palace staff with genuine respect, how he listened more than he spoke, how his laughter, rare though it was, carried warmth without insincerity. Each moment challenged her preconceived notions about humans. And slowly, a bond formed between them, rooted in mutual respect and admiration. One evening, as they observed the twin moons rising over the city, Leora felt a tremor of uncertainty. She had maintained her composure in public, fulfilled every expectation, and yet, in private moments like this, she found herself unguarded. "Caden," she said softly, "how do you face worlds so different from your own without fear?" He glanced at her, eyes reflecting the moonlight. "I do not claim to be fearless. Fear exists in every being, princess. The difference lies in how one acts despite it. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the will to move forward in spite of it." Leora considered his words, realizing that they resonated beyond combat or diplomacy. They applied to life itself, to her role as a princess, and to the expectations that had shaped her since birth. "I see," she murmured. "Then perhaps courage can also be found in understanding, in bridging worlds rather than dividing them." Caden smiled, a quiet affirmation that required no further words. In that moment, the distance between human and Elorian, warrior and princess, seemed to dissolve, leaving only two beings connected by respect, curiosity, and an emerging trust dot as cycles passed. The bond deepened. Leora found herself increasingly reliant on his counsel, valuing his perspective in matters both great and small. She learned of human resilience, ingenuity, and the quiet strength that arose not from tradition or lineage, but from the choice to act rightly. Caden, in turn, grew to appreciate the depth of Elorian culture, the elegance of their arts, and the wisdom encoded in their long history. More than that, he recognized Leora's unique spirit, a blend of grace, intellect, and determination that set her apart even among her own people. In private moments, Leora allowed herself to relax, to laugh freely, and to question without fear of judgment. The human warrior had become a mirror, reflecting her potential and strength back to her in ways that formal training and advisors never could. Yet, even with trust established, she remained vigilant, aware that alliances were fragile and perceptions fickle. Maintaining composure was still necessary, but Caden's presence made it easier, less a burden and more a shared responsibility. The palace,